This is the psychology of why you gamer tilt. I've seen way too many gamers nowadays complain about whether they win, whether they lose, whether they try hard enough, whether they don't try hard enough. And I'm going to go into exactly why you gamer tilt, the exact psychology. I'm going to go into very in-depth topics here. But again, just so you guys know, my name is Sean, otherwise known as Seanzo. I'm a competitive esports player and a bodybuilder, competing in both, and also a coach in both, trying to level up gamers for their self-improvement every day of my life. So today, we're going into the topic of exactly why you gamer tilt, and I'm going to start that off with a story. Now, about 6 months ago, I was playing in a tournament over in Worcester, Massachusetts. It was a great venue, and I was in winners finals. I was playing against my friend Hicks, and Hicks is a Cloud player. I play Pikachu. I should be winning these all the time, but I'm down 2-0. It's a 5-game set, so it's a best of 5. I go down 2 games, which means I need to win 3 in a row in order to bring this back. And lo and behold, I win the next 2. So I'm on my way to reverse 3-0, which basically means I go down 2 games and I have to win game 3, game 4, and game 5 all in a row in order to win the set. And I've never done this before. This would have been an incredible stat for me to have, to get my first reverse 3-0, but I'm sure you guys see where the story's going. I work it all the way back. I win game 3. I win game 4 so narrowly. Game 5 comes around. It's last stock, last hit. I'm a competitive Smash player. Last stock, last hit. And I'm standing up in my seat. I'm going like this. I'm standing up. I'm leaning forward. I'm yelling. I'm like, let's go, Sean. I'm like hyping myself up. And I'm yelling, not on my opponent, but just yelling. I'm trying so hard. I'm trying my absolute hardest. And I lose. I lost. I wanted it way more than he did. Absolutely no doubt in my mind. I wanted to win that set 1,000 times more than my friend did, right? But I lost. And obviously I know everybody knows the idea of that, how effort doesn't equal success. But this set taught me so much more. And I'm going to tell you guys exactly 5 things that this set taught me. We're going to go into it right now. So I go into it a lot of detail in these videos. It's all for free. You guys don't have to pay me a dime. But if you do want to check out the top link in the description, I go into even more detail, more just literally an autistic level of detail with advice, stories, stuff like this. And again, top link in the description. It's got a bunch of guys in there. I'm very proud of what I'm making. It is a course that I'm making right now. It's in its early access, so I'm still making it currently. I'm taking ideas. I'm talking to my guys. And if you get on it now, it's going to be at a reduced price. And once I actually finish it, I'm going to up the price. So it's going to be a little bit different, more of a subscription basis. But if you get in now, you can buy the whole thing, lifetime access. Check it out. Top link in the description. Okay, we're going to go into the first point of this. And I want to actually reframe, what is gamer tilt in the first place? That sounds so weird. Like, what do you mean, gamer? Like the tilt, right? But as I'm sure we know, tilting is more of when you become angry, when you are tilted, like you're kind of angry, you're frustrated, you're raging, you're yelling, kind of like what I did in that situation in my game 5 set that I lost, right? But I want to redefine anger. It's not anger. It's actually the drive to win. I want to replace anger with drive. Now, I'm going to tell kind of another little miniature story here, but when I went to college, I had this professor, Professor Stone. Love that guy. Used to tell us all the time, I'm 175 bulky, like his physique. We're like, awesome, bro. But he taught us a very valuable lesson. And the class was a management supply chain class, okay? Don't ask me how this applies, but we're going to link it back in, okay? He taught us that our brains actually don't know the difference between nervousness and excitement. Okay, so if you ever go into like a test or something, you're going into school, you've got this big MCAS exam, or you got the big final coming up, and you walk in and you're sitting down and you start to feel nervous. You're like, all right, oh my gosh, like, I'm going to take this test. I better do good. If I don't do good, I'm going to not pass high school, or I'm going to fail college, or whatever, right? But if you studied a lot, you might still feel nervous, right? But the difference between nervous and excitement, your brain doesn't understand the difference. They're too similar of an emotion for your brain to go, this is bad, this is good, okay? So, for example, if you're going on a first date, you might be nervous, but you should be excited. Like, oh my gosh, like this girl is awesome. She fits all these values. This is great. I can't wait to go see this girl. But you might feel nervous because you're like, oh, what if she doesn't like me? What if this, what if that? But your brain doesn't understand the difference between nervousness and excitement. So sometimes we need to take a step back and tell our brains, we go, hey, Shanzo brain, you're not actually nervous. You are extremely excited for this first day. You are extremely excited to go kill this test. You're extremely excited to go play in this tournament. You're extremely excited to prove yourself that you can do the reverse 3-0. It's not anger, it's the drive, okay? Between nervousness and excitement, they're too similar for our brains to understand the difference. Link it back to anger and drive. When you get driven to do something, when you are trying your best to just do your absolute best, you're so emotional, you're, oh, come on. That's like almost anger. If you think about it, if you go in the gym, yeah, you might be able to kind of like do your rage there, right? But if you go in the gym and you're pushing 4 or 5 natty like Shanzo, like I do every day, 100 times a day, obviously, it's the drive. I'm going, come on. And I'm pushing the weight. I'm not going, oh, I hate you, weight. Push, right? Like maybe sometimes, but your brain doesn't know the difference between anger and drive. So I want to first, before I get into the other 4 points, the first point is to reframe it. It's not anger, it's drive. So when you feel that and your brain goes, oh, I'm so angry, like I'm tilted, I'm angry. It's not tilt, it's not anger, it's drive. Okay? That's why, again, tip number 1, reframe it. It's not anger, it's drive. Tip number 2 is the goal isn't the end goal. Okay? That sounds a little cryptic, but let me go into a little bit more detail here. Your goal should not be the finish line. It shouldn't be to beat this player. It shouldn't be to be the best in the world. It shouldn't be to beat the game. It shouldn't be like the very, very end goal, this like way in the future unachievable goal. It needs to be the progress. Okay, and I've went into this in my other video, so if you want to check that out, it's one of my first videos. Definitely some great information there, but I'm going to go over it again here. It is that when you make your goal the absolute end goal, if you make the goal the result, if you make the goal the result and you don't get the result, you become extremely discouraged to keep going. Okay, let me give you a specific example before I go into the gaming example. I want to read the Bible, okay? I've been reading the Bible every day for the past almost a year now, okay? And in the back of my head, obviously, I know I want to eventually finish the Bible. But the goal isn't finish the Bible. The goal is I want to do 2 chapters a day, or I want to do 4 chapters there, or I want to do 10 chapters a week, anything like that, where it's a lot more short term, a lot more progress driven. I simply want to progress in reading the Bible, okay? My goal isn't necessarily to finish the Bible, but I want to keep progressing. I want to keep learning more and more and more about this book. If you're reading like the Percy Jackson books, those things are freaking thick, right? They're like this big. If you make your goal, all right, I want to sit down and finish the Percy Jackson series, you're going to spend like 2 years straight just like, just reading. But if you make your goal the progress of going, okay, I want to read this chapter today, I want to read that chapter tomorrow, or I want to read this book by the end of June, or something like that, it becomes much easier to progress. And you're not going to get discouraged when you don't hit your goals. Now, if I want to be the best Smash Bros. Player in the world, I probably don't want to make my goal to go beat Spargo, #1 Smash player in the world right now, by the way. Because I'm not going to beat Spargo. If I go up to him today and I go, hey, let's 1v1 $500 money match, I might get whooped. I might win because like I'm Pikachu, right? But I'm probably going to lose. And if I lose against Spargo and my goal is to be the #1 player in the world and I fail that goal, my mental is crushed. I don't want to do this anymore. I go, well, my brain goes, even if I know mentally I want to keep going, my brain's going to go, screw this, dude. You just lost to Spargo. Like, you just failed. I don't want to do this anymore. But if my goal is progress, not the actual result, if my goal is progress, I want to become a better Smash Bros. Player, I might go, okay, I want to beat Brando, one of the ranked players in Rhode Island right now. You know, much lower of a goal. Brando, I'm going to crap on him for a little bit. Brando's no Spargo, okay? If Spargo's up here, Brando's like here. And if Shanzo's here, this is a much easier goal to reach than up here. So as I progress, go, I want to get a little better every day, a little better. Then I beat Brando. I'm like, all right, great. I finally got that. All right, now we're going to set our goals a little bit higher and a little bit higher and a little bit higher. And when we have that progression, it becomes much easier to actually literally progress. So again, that's why tip number 2 is to have your goal be the progress, not the result. Okay, and now tip number 3 is effort does not equal success. Effort does not equal results. And obviously we already know that, right? But I'm gonna go into a little bit more detail here, all for you guys, okay? I wanna bring you guys to an example of when I was in high school. I swam, okay? There was the Hopkinton swim and dive team. And I was a swimmer, right? I was one of the cool kids. No. But swimming is very simple, right? You just go the whole time. It's very easy, people say, okay? So I took a lot of caffeine, right? I'm a gym rat. I love caffeine. I love my Total War. I might take 300 milligrams of caffeine before a meet or something, or like a race, okay? And it'll help me swim better, swim faster, because the action is very simple. I'm just, okay? But now I want to turn your attention to the dive team. The swim and dive are on the same team, but there were two different parts of the team, okay? The dive team do very intricate tasks, okay? Obviously, it's no, but they'll go up on the board, okay? And they'll set up, and then they have to do like a quadruple front flip, reverse gainer, all these like crazy stuff that like I couldn't do in a million years, right? If they took 300 milligrams of caffeine, they would probably do worse. Their performance would actually lower, okay? There's studies about this where if you're doing a very intricate task, for example, bringing back to video games, Pikachu, I have very intricate combos that I have to do where I have to make sure I do press this button at this frame and I press this button there and then time this perfectly or else I don't get my combo. There's a lot of characters like that as well. If I take a lot of caffeine, I'm very effort. If I put in all my effort and I'm like standing up and screaming like I was at the end of the game 5 set, I'm actually going to do worse because all of a sudden I become just like this muscle monster. You know, like if I wanted to press one button a billion times in a row as fast as I could, yeah, being overstimulated and taking caffeine and putting as much effort in as I can probably would help me do better at that. But when it comes to something intricate like combos or diving or things like chess, it's actually much more important to not necessarily raise your effort, but to raise the mental of the strategy and the strategic advantage you have when you sit back and you're calm, okay? So again, tip number 3 is that effort doesn't equal success. Effort doesn't equal the results. Effort or stimulation, we could also put under there, does not equal better results. Higher stimulation, higher levels of effort, higher levels of trying doesn't make you a better player. It might make you better at some things. Like if I wanted to do 100 push-ups in a row, yeah, I would want to be way overstimulated because it's just here, 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 here over and over again. But in terms of actual, like when you want to get to be a better player, you need to be lower stimulated. You don't want to be hyped up on caffeine. You don't want to be high effort. You want to have a pretty middle level of effort. You want to be mindful. So again, that's why tip number 3 is that more effort and more stimulation does not equal more results. Tip number 4 is the loss aversion bias, okay? Now, you might already know what this is, but I'm going to go into a little bit more detail here as well. Loss aversion bias is when you care so much about not losing something that that's all you focus on. And the more you push it away, the more it comes to you. It's kind of like quicksand. Like you want to get out of the quicksand, so you're struggling, and that just makes you sink deeper. Now, I'll actually start with the analogy in games first. In my game 5 set with Hicks, my friend who is also my opponent here, at that game 5 set, where last stock last, it was very, very close. I tried so hard to not get hit. I was like, no matter what, if I take any hit, I'm screwed. I was playing so safe. I was running away from him. He was kind of getting pissed about it, but I was running away. I was trying to play as defensive as possible. But because I was playing so defensive, I never went for a hit. I was so scared, and I was so scared of getting hit that I didn't want to take any risks. Another analogy for this is perfect. I love this one so much. Is that, let's say you go into battle, okay? I give you a choice. You either get to choose the sword, and with the sword, you can only attack. You can only attack, you can only do so many points of damage, right? But you can't defend at all, okay? Or I give you a shield. And with the shield, you might think, oh, like I could bash somebody with a shield. No. You can only protect with a shield. You'll take like a little bit of damage, like it's so negated because it's such a big shield, right? Excuse the flex. But you use the shield, okay? What would you choose? Would you choose the sword, where you can only attack but you can't defend? Or the shield, where you can only defend but not attack? Okay? You would choose the sword, obviously, because if you choose the shield, you can never attack. You're only going to die a slow burn death. But if you choose the sword, yeah, you might not be able to defend, but you'll at least be able to end the match. You'll be able to fight your way to victory. And that's what the loss aversion bias is, when you care so much about not losing that you bring the loss to yourself. So again, in the game 5 with Hicks, I was choosing the shield. I was trying not to get hit the best as I possibly could without taking any effort to actually win. You don't want to play to lose, or rather, you don't want to play not to lose. I know it's kind of a double negative, but that's kind of the point. When you play to not lose, all you can think about is losing, and you bring that loss to you. But if you play to win, you're going to be doing the actions that actually help you win, that actually make you win in the first place. So again, that's why tip number 4 is to choose the sword, not the shield. Rather, the loss aversion bias is about choosing to play to win rather than playing not to lose. Tip number 5, and this is the very last one. Before I go into this, I do just want to again say the top link in the description is my school page. If you guys like this kind of content, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff in the YouTube algorithm. I'm not done yet, but again, just want to let you guys know, top link in there is going to be a community full of guys just like us trying to self-improve, especially for gamers, just trying to level ourselves up in the best way possible and as most optimal as possible. I love that word, optimal. And again, top link in the description, check it out. But for tip number 5, I want you to draw your attention to attention residue, okay? Attention residue is something that I learned in the book I read called Deep Work by Cal Newport. And it's a business book. It's more about productivity, but I found a way to apply it to video games, obviously, right? Shanza is the king at that. So attention residue is basically when you go from one task to another. You go from task A to task B. When you go to task B, you actually have a little bit of mental energy left over from task A, meaning some of your brain is still thinking about task A when you're trying to move on to task B. So I'm a competitive gamer. I go to tournaments. I've been all over New England. I've been to New Jersey, all over the East Coast, okay? And I use a very specific tactic, okay? This is why tip number 5 is I want you to break up in between when you do things. I want you to break up exactly once you do one thing, have a little bit of time in between, and maybe even do something in between. I'm going to tell you exactly what I do, and then go to task B. Because if you're trying to multitask, people say, oh, I can multitask, it's easy. You actually can't. And I've gone into this in my other videos where when you multitask, you go from one task to another, you think your energy is split 100-100. I'm going, yeah, I'm doing this as best as I can. I'm doing this as best as I can. Or if you get a little smarter, you go, okay, maybe it's 50-50. It's actually 40-40 or even less. Because when you switch from one task to another, again, some of that mental energy is left on the other one and you're splitting it and it becomes suboptimal. Again, I love that word, optimal, suboptimal. Okay, so attention residue in Smash, when I go to tournaments, if I play a set and I just lost, it was a terrible loss, like the game 5 set, right? We were in winter, so I still had to play after that. So much of my mental energy is still being spent on this game, thinking about it and replaying it in my head and going, oh, I should have done this or should have done this. But I need to go play my next set like in 5 minutes. I can't be worrying about this set anymore. So a lot of people, they'll scroll on their phone, they'll talk to their friends, whatever. But you need to purposefully take your mind off the set, okay? And for me, I learned how to do a Rubik's Cube last year. And I bring a Rubik's Cube with me to all my tournaments so that when I go through a hard set like that, whether win or lose or a lot of teaching moments in that set, I need to take my brain off of it. So I do something mentally stimulating for me. For me, that's doing a Rubik's Cube. I look autistic, I swear, but I'll go in the corner, I'll turn my chair into the corner like I was a bad boy, and I'll do my little Rubik's Cube. And people think I'm weird, like, sure, whatever, bro, I just beat you, right? But doing the Rubik's Cube takes my brain off of this whole thing where I just won or I just lost, a bug on me. But it takes my brain off of that, so that way the attention residue isn't being left on the task A. It wasn't being left on this set. Do my Rubik's Cube, okay, boom, wiped off, wiped clean, forgot. Go to task B, go to set B, go to the next set. Now I'm going to be doing a lot better, and I have been doing a lot better since I've been doing this kind of attention residue training thing. So again, that's why tip number 5 is to be careful of attention residue and split up your tasks. Put some time in between when you do task A and task B. That way you optimize your performance and everything. So again, guys, if you like what you saw, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff from the YouTube algorithm. And if you actually made it this far, I do want to see a new emoji, okay? I want to see a frog emoji. If you made it this far and you made it to the end of this video, shoot me a frog emoji. I want to know who the real ones are. Nobody else is going to know what's going on, but I know who the real ones are if I see a frog emoji, okay? And again, top link in the description if you want to check out more of what I'm doing behind the scenes, if you want to see more, again, autistic level of detail. I go all this stuff for free for you guys, but in there, definitely check me out if you want a little bit more Shanzo. Who doesn't? And I also have another video coming out pretty soon that is combining the fitness industry and being a jock and also being a gamer at the same time. Sounds a little funny, but I promise you I synthesized in a great way. I'm looking forward to posting that very soon. And lastly, life is a dice roll. You just got to roll the dice a hell of a lot more than everybody else. And I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.